This podcast is brought to you by Scratchpad.
You're there every day, 12 hours a day filming. I'm like, I'll be able to film my bits after. Like, I had this whole plan that I made up in my head that just did not happen. And we'd be like, oh, we'll film bits like in the house, like as sort of like a hype house of us living together as millennials. That was like a big idea we had.
Yeah.
Totally didn't happen.
Well,
'cause
we're
we got
also
home.
rewriting your lines because you're like, these are dumb, and we need to write something funny.
Well, I'm rewriting everything. Yeah, we're like scrapping the whole
Yeah,
thing.
we did,
to, like
though.
notify the whole team. No, and then like we're rehearsing because we have to memorize our lines the night before. Like it was just such a grind, but I loved it and I want to do it again.
I'll be honest, I still don't fully believe you, but hey, we'll take your word for it.
That's some royalty-free shit, people. That's what we do.
Beyond Quota.
We're back on the Beyond Quota podcast. We're going a tri-hosting today, which is just absolutely insane. Puyan, obviously CEO of the Scratchy, and Ben, minion of the Scratchy, and then Corp, Scratchy adjacent. And we are joined by the corporate queen herself, Natalie, corporate Natalie, on all platforms, streaming everywhere right now. You can check it out. But we are here to talk about S.A.D. Sales Are Dope, the production, probably the most important television show of the last 30 years, you could argue. I mean, it's a kind of Sopranos, but like the Soprano comedy.
There are shows and then there are historical moments,
Yeah.
right? And I think
I mean,
this falls in the latter.
That's what people are saying. That is what all 7 people who have watched the show are saying. And I mean, let's talk about the process.
agree.
I mean, obviously I'm well aware of it, but we want to hear it from you. When did you get involved in this project?
It sort of wasn't like an initial ask of be in it. It was like, what are your thoughts on this? What character resonates with you, if any? And I think it was very clear after a first read that Katie was the obvious choice, the kind of bitchy, just like savage. That was pretty innate to me. So jumped right on. And I think through the whole thing, both of your willingness to let me kind of like add a touch or change a few things or like help a little bit with like the creation after it was already like basically perfect, but just helping with, things here and there. And I think living together probably helped, but that was the most exciting part of like, watching it come to life and like molding sort of how that looked from maybe what we initially thought would happen. So it was all like, I mean, from the start, I was so excited. I actually like that was sort of when I quit my full-time job, was like I have to go down to LA for a month.
What
and
a treat! I would
with
throw it
you.
all away for what?
So Natalie, so you leave corporate to join this crew and create this series. How much do you regret it now?
Yeah, huge regret. No, I think it's a testament to how much I believed in the script and obviously both of you. I think it is such a risk. It was so much more like all consuming and time consuming than I could have ever imagined. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of a side character. Like I'll have days off. I don't really need to be that. No, you're there every day, 12 hours a day filming. I'm like, I'll be able to film my bits after. Like I had this whole plan that I made up in my head that just did not happen. And we'd be like, oh, we'll film bits like in the house, like as sort of like a hype house of us living together as millennials. That was like a big idea we had.
Yeah.
Totally didn't happen.
Well, we're also rewriting your lines because you're like, these are dumb, and we need to write something funny.
Well, I'm rewriting everything. Yeah, we're like scrapping the whole thing.
We did,
to, like notify the whole team. No, and then like we're rehearsing because we have to memorize our lines the night before. Like it was just such a grind, but I loved it.
That's what I was going to ask. Actually, is you did it once. Would you do it again? Sounds like yeah. Why?
I would do it again. The process was one of the most fulfilling things I've done. I think being a content creator is like a lonely endeavor. I sit here at my desk filming myself, making jokes. I have no one to bounce off of, no team. Obviously, like I do other things, but I think being in a room with people who I respect, who are funny, and being able to ideate and do that is amazing. Like I see the sketch writers in LA doing that just every day, like filming constantly. It's like a big think tank, and we do that sometimes on Saturdays when we film and stuff, but it's like not the same as a month of just like creating.
Has this experience influenced your own content creation at all?
Yes, it's inspired me to want to write something long form, but just seeing like how you were able to actually do this, like from an idea to having a premiere with 300 people and releasing a show and a series is like, it's just something that I view as so untouchable and so unimaginable, but it's, you did it. And I mean, if you can do
Right.
it, I could do it, you know.
Well, I mean, if for what it's worth, I can certainly give you the shortcuts that are the mistakes that we've made that have been expensive to make. There's definitely like what I think like what's like really cool about all of this is like none of us are professionals in like the Hollywood sense. Like we do our things, and like I don't think like watching your performance, you know, like nobody's gonna watch that show and be like, oh, they couldn't do it. Like they like this couldn't be done in some like bigger form. I think what so many people were pleasantly surprised, not that like I'm certainly not offended that their bar was low. I'm actually like pleased that the bar was low. Like what we went out there and did when people saw, were like, oh my God, like I didn't realize like the magnitude of what this was. Like I just think the thing I'm most appreciative of was just you hear about all these film sets where people are like screaming at each other. There's like these egos, and like all we did was laugh and just not shut the hell up for like 6 weeks.
And I think it was great that like we were the comedy, and then like the crew was so like professional and creative, and like it was a very good balance. And I also think just in general, like your ability to access the LA, Hollywood, like just even where to start with that, it feels so inaccessible as like living in Silicon Valley, a creator here. And like there's just such a disconnect between like the content we make here and
Totally.
what's done there.
I'm curious because that brings up a point that like people ask me about all the time, and I'm curious about you. Like, do you feel imposter syndrome? Like, and if so, like, how does that manifest? Like, how do you deal with that? I think a lot of people just in general deal with it in various aspects of their life. Like, how do you think about it? Do you feel that ever?
I feel a lot of imposter syndrome with the acting, yes, because I think there are people who train their whole life and do reads and are turned down and are just grinding in this like really thankless world of Hollywood acting. And I mean, I solely, and I'm entirely will admit and am happy to say, like solely got this opportunity based on my like following and like the content side of things. I have no acting experience. Like, and I think the imposter syndrome comes from having like a little bit of that leg up of like, I just started making videos in my room and I get to bypass people who have gone to serious acting theater school. Like, it just doesn't seem fair, but it's like, I can do it, you know? And I think the lane that it's in, it's like, it felt like it wasn't acting at times. Like it was just, you know, that's within a range of something that I'm comfortable with, but that's where the imposter syndrome comes in for me.
Oh, I mean,
What
I
about
think
you?
like pulling off the show, it still felt like even the night before the premiere for me, I was like, how do we cancel this? Like, how do we like not do this? Because
I thought Ross was gonna puke in his lap when the show started in the theater. He was so just pale, sweaty, just gripping this the armchairs.
Well, I was telling people, I was like from the like start, I was like slouched, and every time people laugh at a joke, I like got like a little bit more just like, okay, like what? Like
I think also we're so self-deprecating, and like with you actually with this, I noticed like you are not self-deprecating about this. You're very proud of it. You speak very seriously. I mean, obviously it's like the biggest
Facts.
accomplishment of your life, but I think it's important to like put that like self-deprecating shit that we do all the time aside and be like, this is, you know, this is like your dream and your goal, and you did it.
And I
you
think
should
like
be absolutely proud of that.
that's the hard part, right? Is I think when you have ambition, like once you have something, you want more, right? You always want more. And for me, it's hard. Like I still feel an immense responsibility to everybody who worked on this to like get a second season. I feel like enormous pull and push. I have to sit back, like you said, and be like, holy shit, like we did this, we pulled this off. And I know somewhere in my soul, like I do feel that. And there are moments where I'm like, oh my God, like all that matters is we pulled it off. But like, I want Dylan and Sarah and Talon and Steven, like Steven's like left Hollywood, right? He's moving to Austin because he's so jaded and like over the scene, which I get, right? Like there's so much bullshit there. And I'm like, there's so many talented people in this world, like exactly what you're talking about, how we get to like bypass for what, you know, for our followings, for like, you know, the social media stuff. that deserve a chance and that deserve, like, who gave us so much time and so much effort and so much talent, that I'm like, I will be very disappointed in myself if I can't figure out how to do this one more time.
Yeah. So I mean, this is what's interesting. I think for both of you, right? You've both created. I mean, you both created these personalities and this content, and you did it solo without many resources, and they've both been wildly successful. You've now created this series that is truly generational, as we talked about, and what those 7 people said is
Yep.
kind of maybe a historic moment for this country.
Yeah.
Cultural icon.
Yeah,
But no,
bipartisan.
I guess I'm just wondering, because this is not a place or a space I know well as Hollywood. Like, obviously, startups and tech that in Silicon Valley is more where I've been, but I just wonder how much of Hollywood's structure might change, where you just don't need the reliance on that much, either for the production, for the creation, for the distribution.
I think its distribution is our limit. I mean, like, Natalie and I both have audiences, and like we can only scream at the top of our lungs at them so many times, and like those folks, many of them are conditioned, like, we'll both get it, like on either side. It's like, why are you bringing in other people? Like, we just want to watch you like do your bits. And then like, well, it's like we like doing other shit. And like people get accustomed to a certain thing that we do. And then if we do something outside of it, they're like, oh, what is this new different like thing? But I think for us, it is just a distribution issue. It's all money, right? To have budget. But
I think I mean, do you think you could build a set here and bring the right people and like do that here? Like, I think it's such a different language and currency. And like, you go down there, they're saying that like Ross and I wanted to, like, we talked about starting a podcast, and down in LA, you have Dear Media, you have these huge like podcast hubs. Here, we couldn't even get like a studio. Like, I mean, we're all virtual right now, which is like, the thing that most podcast base here do. But if Ross and I wanted to get a studio with mics and like cameras and just like have that, it doesn't exist here. Like, that is so easy to do in LA, and that's just one side of it. But I'm thinking like, you really just think the Hollywood dependency is
oh, I mean, I think
distribution?
like
it's
when I
way
think
beyond
Hollywood,
that.
I'm like thinking Netflix and HBO. Like, I'm barely even like, no offense to Steven, who I love. I'm like, is Steven Hollywood? Steven's like, worked in Hollywood. But when I think Hollywood, I'm like, network producers and network talent. Like, oh, we'd still go to we have to go to LA, like, to get crew and get the people like involved. But I'm saying we just need the money. We could find those people who aren't like, necessarily unionized, right? The big dogs up there, like, because there's so many talented people, we could find them. We absolutely need the physical location of LA. Otherwise it's just money. Like, because all I want to do is bring back the same people, bring back the same crew with a few like, substitutions here and there. But like, I do think exactly what you're saying. We need those people who speak that language, who have the Hollywood training, not so much like Netflix, HBO, FX, ABC. Like, we don't need the network folks.
It is interesting because I mean, I have a cousin who's been trying to be an actor for a decade and has had small parts here and there, but is kind of sick of LA and the prices and everything there. And he's like, if I wasn't in this industry, I would have left 5 years ago. But we've always done this thing from the outside. We've created this content from the outside, and then we kind of go in to make our show. But for the 90% of people who are trying to make it in the industry, whether it's writing, set design, directing, acting, they're all there. And you just need that talent base where it's not like Hollywood's become remote, it's not become like virtual. And I feel like that is something that like you just can't replicate somewhere else, at least at this point. Maybe in New York or something like that, but you kind of need the Hollywood like infrastructure to make it happen.
Like, for me, that month will always be in my memory in some way, and I have like random highlights that like pop up. Like, do you have moments or like scenes or whatever, it doesn't have to be on set, could be offset, like moments that you think about as like defining moments of those 5 weeks?
Well, I think just for any like actor, actress, that's a wrap on Katie kind of was like a big, like, kind of teary-eyed moment at the end of when you say your last line of the series. That was exciting. I think like hearing you pull everyone together and talk and through tears and say your bit was like very inspiring. And I think there were just like little moments that defined like such a great overall experience of like, I don't know, hanging out at the house and we just laughed our asses off for a whole month. Like it was so fun. I just remember being so happy.
Pulling up next to you, all of us giving you the bird while you're sobbing through the fact that some dude just broke up with you.
Wow.
Well,
you're
broke
gonna
up with
say
him,
that
but he
on
just
the
didn't
pod.
get it, and then it was like that was hilarious.
Wait, that was so funny. Should we tell that anecdote? What happened? I was like loosely talking to this guy. I was in LA, and then
Yes, you were in the car
next to
driving
you
back from
guys,
somewhere. We
right? I
saw
was in
you,
my
and
car.
all of us are just like giving you the bird, like honking at you, and you're like,
Yeah. Oh, I was like, I'm gonna call him like in the car. And yeah, we pull up next to you at a red light, totally flipping me off. Like I'm like crying because he was like, I don't see this going any
she looks
further.
over.
I'm
We're
like, oh, sorry.
That's not.
It's so fun living with a bunch of guys though, because like hearing you guys try to console that was great.
You're like, there,
That was so fun.
child. It's
Yeah. She must be on her period.
why is she being so emotional about this?
What's going on? Oh my god, that's so funny. That was a good memory.
I was gonna say another funny memory that this brought up was kind of in the similar vein, but just a little different. I think maybe you went out after that happened, and me and Rohan and Corp are chilling at the house, and we stay in, we watch a movie, and it's like 11:30, it's like midnight. We're all getting kind of tired, and we're like, is she gonna get home? Like, I'm a little worried about her. Like, should we go pick her up? Like, should we send someone to, and we all separately texted her like, hey, just call us if you need anything. Like, text us that you're safe.
Let us know when you're home. Just text us when you get home. That's it.
There's lemon pound cake in the fridge if you want anything when you get home.
Literally. I have like 4 missed calls from all of you. Like, is everything okay? I'm like, it's 11. Like, I'm 24 years old. Let me go.
You always say nothing good happens after midnight, so make sure you're home.
Yeah. Thanks, Dad. That was so hilarious.
That was the limit of our empathy.
I noticed a change in Ben when he came back. I think this now helps.
Shell shock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Years older.
He was extremely depressed. I don't know.
Dylan kind of said that after the show ended, he was in kind of a low because it was like, this all encompassing thing, kind of like what Natalie was saying earlier. It's like you're waking up at 6, you're going to bed after editing at midnight, and then you're getting up and doing it again, and you're exhausted, but you're like, you have so much adrenaline for these 4 or 5 weeks or whatever. And so you're just giving like everything that you have into it, and it's so rewarding. But when it's over, it is like this kind of weird feeling of like all of a sudden the car stops and you're just like floating a little bit.
My inspiration as a creator was completely gone. I was like depressed. Like I couldn't think of anything. I just sit down here with my ring light and film myself.
Where's Remy
like,
with the makeup?
Where's the big camera?
Yeah.
Where's my co-star? Like what's happening?
It's hard to explain to people until you go through it. Like, misery is not the right term, but like nothing bonds like shared misery and like there's a shared grind. You go through
the struggle.
Like, all the people
think like this is such hard work. Like I'm the most tired person on earth. Like I'm constantly as you know, like I'm complaining. I am like miserable if I don't have like 7 Red Bulls. Like I would always ask to leave early. I'm like the kid that's like, can I leave? They're like, no. And I would always just be in awe at like everyone's energy. Like the entire crew, everyone but me was so energetic, so willing to do it. People are like, investment banking's hard. I'm like, this shit is hard.
Well, we had Shane on the Red Bulls, ready with the Red Bulls.
I mean, these people work through the night. No one's looking. I'm like looking around. I'm like, does anyone want dinner? Like I haven't eaten. Like I've only eaten like 12 mushes in the last hour. I'm starving.
Exactly. It is not all your daily vitamins in a mush, despite what it says on the package.
I mean, I will say, but besides the mush, our diets while we were there did not help. Because there's this Crafty, which is craft services. That's where all the snacks are. And it's Cheez-Its, Doritos, like all of your favorite snacks from when you were 9 years old.
Fruit by the
unlimited
foot. Are you kidding me?
soda, and so it's just you start eating at like we had to train ourselves to be like, all right, I'm not gonna start till like 10:45 a.m. today, like because yesterday I was having fruit by the foot for breakfast, and you just have your body
Which does
gets into
have
a
fruit
weird place.
in the name, so you could argue.
I literally had a wedding like the weekend after we wrapped, and I was like, okay, so can we get a seamstress to get this bridesmaid's dress to like be sewn onto me because it doesn't fit? So great, awesome, thank you. Continuity issue there. And living with guys, I was like, this is horrible. I don't know if I can do that. I need some separation next time we film.
Well, you had the Equinox hookup, or was Bay Club something else?
I did get the Equinox hookup, but I didn't have
Right,
time
because
to
we're on
go.
set 16 hours. So when are you gonna go?
I went one night at 9:30 p.m. I was like, this ain't
gonna do it.
What is this gonna do? Maybe one less.
You're out at 9
push,
o'clock.
right?
We're just worried sick about you back in the apartment. Like,
yeah, I'm breaking curfew. Yeah, it's not worth it.
definitely not worth it. You don't want to get stern talking to from Raj.
Beyond Quota.
This podcast is brought to you by Scratchpad. Are your managers interrogating or coaching? Are you forecasting on a hunch or with an up-to-date and accurate pipeline? Are your reps following your sales process? Or does it feel like the Wild West out there? It's more important than ever to get back to the fundamentals of sales and drive efficient growth. With the first system built for sales process performance, Scratchpad is here to help sales and RevOps leaders shorten deal cycles, trust their CRM, and get more output from your team. And do we mention your salespeople already love it? Learn more at scratchpad.com.
Beyond Quota.
John, can I hear about a little of if you talked about in the other episode, we can just cut this, but when Ross approached you with the idea, how that went for you?
He threw up in his mouth first. He goes, "Oh, sorry, I was not expecting that." Ugh.
It's actually, Ross, you may have to remind me, like it all blends together. I don't remember the moment. There wasn't like this magical moment where Ross came to me and I was like, angels sang, and it's like, here's the script. Oh my gosh, we have to do this. I think it was more of a casual conversation over a long period of time, right? I think when we first met, you had this idea, and it just evolved. So it feels like it just kind of gradually grew from like this little nugget of an idea, at least from my perspective, right? Of like, maybe. And then it kind of gained a little bit more momentum. But I do think there was one point where Ross was like, I think this is going to happen. Like, I remember he's saying he was committed to doing it. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, you've committed to doing things before. You've pulled them off. You've done it. If you're truly going to commit to this thing, like, I have no doubt you're going to make it happen. That's what I remember, Ross.
Yeah, it was a few conversations. No, it was a few conversations because we talked about like reality show, right? We were talking about like these ideas, and we had this script, and I was like, well, I want to shoot this like sitcom, and like you were always about it. And it was like, and then eventually got to a point where it's like, all right, we're picking shooting dates. I better figure out how to race. I was like looking into loans. I was like, I'm doing this. I will figure it out one way or another. Fortunately, it was like, you and bravado and then filling in the gaps. But thank God I asked you in 2021.
You know what's funny though is so a couple of things stood out to me. One is, I'll get a lot of founders that I'll talk to that are asking for fundraising advice, and there's a close parallel to, I think, this experience that Ross probably had, and what I would share with other founders is, if you feel like you have to convince somebody a lot, then it's probably just not the right person. Like, you want to try to find somebody for whatever idea you have that is somewhat related to or connected to that idea already in some degree. You shouldn't feel like you have to completely convince somebody or your worldview for them to be on board. And so I think, the reason I was so excited to join this and support it was I was like, this should exist. I don't know in what form. But what I know is there is some incredible stories in sales. I've lived some of them, and that story isn't told. And so just from that perspective, I was like, it's awesome that Ross is working on this, because I just thought like this should exist. But two, I think it was the first time I actually experienced Ross as nervous, and I've seen him, we work together a lot. but it was awesome. Like that call, he was like, okay, so, and I was like, hey, dude, let's just chat. What are you working on?
Puyana, can I have some money?
There's somebody.
Please, man, please.
Yeah.
You'll never get it back, I promise.
No, because usually Ross just carries his swagger and it's this air of confidence, and I was like, whoa, this feels a little bit different. But it's an uncomfortable experience if you've never been through it.
When the comedian
Yeah.
crumbles.
It's like I've sold my whole life, but I'm guaranteeing no ROI. So can I have your money now? Not no ROI, but it's one of those things that like, because you don't know how it's going to go. You don't know how it's going to work. Like you haven't made this product before. Like I have no idea. Like I'm asking you this. I don't know who's going to be in it. I don't know like what the location is going to look like. I've like seen some of Steven's work, but like, I just, there's a lot of faith that you just kind of put into it.
Yeah, no, but I think that parallel, there's a very close parallel to that, to honestly creating anything and asking for your first few dollars, right? That you call it like a friends and family round or that scene round, because that's all you have is your reputation and then your faith that you're going to do something, and you're asking people to believe in that. And you're not saying necessarily believe in the idea. What you're saying is believe in me, that I'm going to get this idea to reality. And again, Ross and I had worked together long enough, and I had seen that. So that's why I was like, it wasn't even a question in my mind. I was like, yeah, if anyone's going to do this, it's Ross driving it.
And I drove that bus right off the cliff, baby. Yeah, everyone's coming with, and you're all coming with. Going back to like your bits and so forth, how much of it is improv for you, and how much of it is like written? Or like, what is your creative process for writing kind of your sketches?
As you know, I don't write.
Right.
So this is just very new, just even sitting down, typing. I'm like, you guys have like a quill? Like, how does this work? Very improv. I'll write a title. I'll write like The Coworker Who, and then I'll press record and film myself. I think I need to like lean into the like even short form writing to have like, here's what a script is, here's how you ideate on the script. Because that's very hard for me. Because you can't tell like actual actors to do that. You have to have like a line for them to say. I'm like, here's the concept. All right, let's
just
film.
spitball. Why don't you guys just spitball?
Yeah.
It's like, but not everyone is an improv artist like us. No, but my creative process. I need to, and I think also the plot, the like storytelling is like, I have a lot of quick jokes and things that I think are funny, but what's the arc of like, what am I trying to say?
It is funny seeing Nats and doing like the corporate bro stuff. The first time we ever filmed together, it was like Ross and I had this script planned out.
We're like
doing
flipping
like
pages,
shots.
just like all right, set
yeah,
exterior.
We have like, okay, over the shoulder, and then like we're done with it. And then this is when like I learned that I was no longer cool or hip anymore. Was when Natalie was like, all right, let's do some TikToks. And at this point we hadn't done TikTok. And Natalie was like, hold the phone, press this button. And I'm like, which button on this?
What is this
and then
thing?
And then we just do it, and we like did like 4 or 5 super quick. And for Ross and I, it was just like, what is this? What just happened?
She's like, just lip sync the sound. And we do one take, and I was like, oh, I think I missed that part. She goes, it's fine. No, it's fine. I was like,
doesn't matter.
But my mouth doesn't line up. It's fine. No one gives a shit. It's fine. And I was like,
it's not about
okay,
that.
All right. And then it goes out there and absolutely bangs, like absolutely crushes. I'm like, okay.
But I need that perfectionist lens if I do want to do something that, because I was thinking like with this project, and when you were saying like, how is this different? How do you feel about it? Like you can't change it. Like I think with any bit we do, any TikTok, like you can delete it. Even when we like record a bit, like a business jargon romance is a big one we did. Like it took a while to record. There was a lot of editing, post, whatever. Like we can absolutely delete that and kill that and it won't exist anymore. Like that's fine, But like this is like, you have to get it right. You have to know it's right. You have to have faith in that. And it like just lives as this evergreen piece,
right?
Like, forever. And that's so scary to me. Like we have such the ability to just abandon ship at any point.
Right. That is definitely a major differentiator in terms of like content versus like long form scripted stuff. It's true. Like there's so many things I wish I could change.
Yeah, talent and just shooting the shit with your iPhone.
But it's
right?
it's just it is. I mean, we live in a world where that plays, right? Like that's like, we can rip out a few sketches and like we can spend, for example, like we can spend 6 weeks shooting this show and all 8 episodes combined have less views than any stupid little TikTok sound will do, like on a random day, which is crazy,
yeah.
but that's just how it is. And I think like that's where you have to care at least somewhat about the craft and art and like appreciate that you did it versus like the result, which is something I personally have issues or struggle with at times.
Failing is tough. It's like if a video fails, we delete it. Like, I don't know, it's hard to accept.
Yeah. How do you stick with like, like I know you have Annie, for example, like how often, and we joke about this because I'm like in every comment, every DM, like just taking the hate, internalizing it, realizing it's true, hating myself. It's a vicious cycle. How do you kind of like
look at this guy like posted on LinkedIn. It's like a bot with 0 followers, like 1 comment. I'm like, I don't give a how did you
I'm
find
like, well, my whole day will revolve around me destroying him in my mind. Today's room.
Yeah. You write like a 6-paragraph response, like, well, I'm sure when you wake up, you stupid imbecile. I'm like, how did you craft this? It's like a thesis, 4-paragraph essay. Yeah, I don't do that. I mean, it's different. Like the videos we make, well, you're in the comments with a lot of the stuff you do, but I think I would feel different if I had people depending on me and like, it was a bigger project. I'm sure I would, the how it was perceived would be really important to me. With myself, it just like I've, I gotta put me first with like, I can't just let that stuff tear me down. It also just like unproductive time. Like I don't know.
It's true. It is unproductive. It's extremely unproductive.
You get, they're not everyone's going to like you. I recently posted a video about that. It's like in any area of your life, not everyone's going to get the jokes we make. They might not be in corporate. They might not find me funny. They might not find women funny, and that's their issue. And I can't control that. So
hear me out. What if you write them an essay, like a really thoughtful, compelling one, and you change their mind through just artful writing, strong arguments, and evidence?
DM them personally. Yeah. I also am just like, anytime you engage, it makes them feel like you're validating what they're saying.
It's so true. God, people say that to me and I hate it. Or I destroy them publicly and everyone respects me more and they feel small.
And I win because it is a competition.
Yeah, Ross, I think we're gonna have to chat, you and I, just make sure,
I'm good, buddy. I'm good, man. I sat outside in the pitch black dark last night for an hour and a half. So yeah, I'm good.
Ross and I have a biannual breakdown. I feel like probably twice a year. One of us will break
call
down.
the other and be like, hey, I'm going through it right now. I don't know what to do. Why are we doing this? It's like, what happened? This guy.
I don't want this anymore.
It's like, what else are you gonna do? All right, good point. Good point.
Like, what happened? I'm like, a date went really bad. You're like, I thought this was about
after this, Ross, you're gonna get texts from Ben, Natalie, and me. Hey man, you all right? You good?
Just checking in.
Just checking in. Just checking in, like if you want to talk. We're here.
What's next, Natalie? What's next? Tell me what's next, because I don't know what's next.
Plug yourself. And then give us a motivational quote or something.
Well, that's like when I'm on podcasts and they're like, okay, just quick rapid fire. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? I'm like, why wasn't this in like the show notes? No, what's next? I feel, I've talked to Ross about this. I feel as though I'm in a bit of I just hired a full-time employee, which is so exciting. I was like 4 months ago. So I'm allowing myself to be comfortable in this space of like, I'm not constantly busy and stressed and my hair is falling out. Like, I'm like, I feel balanced. I feel content. I'm like making content that I'm proud of and happy about when I want to make the content. And I'm kind of just embracing that, like maybe plateau. Like I'm not in a huge growth, like chase phase. I think there are a lot of things I want to do and I'm saying I want to do. I'm just not like, I'm not doing it, but I'm kind of okay with that. So I think the writing is like an exciting like thing that I'm carving out some time to do. I think whenever I'm like on stage and I'm asked this, I say like, watch the show, comment if you like it, engage with it. I do think that's like a big thing that just released and very proud of. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to be a LinkedIn influencer is kind of my goal.
Join me. The water's warm. It feels great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels great. A lot of affirmation on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
A lot of affirmation.
What's next for you, Ross? Is there any big projects that I'm not aware of?
I want to discuss with you at some point about writing an episode of like discuss the Katie arc of season 2. I'm still like literally sales repping, cold emailing people trying to get them to watch this show. I'm trying to have conversations and see like explore potential investment in season 2 or like ways that season 2 can happen.
How much of your like week percentage wise is dedicated to the show?
I mean, Ben and I will have like an hour. Like we wrote for an hour last week and wrote a few sketches that we like then shot, this weekend. But now I'm like, okay, great. We've got 3 in the tank. And I know you like to post all the time, like post every day and so forth. But I'm like 3 in the tank means I have 3 weeks, which means I can like focus. Like I don't have to stress about like writing a sketch. I can focus on this show right now. And like, if a TikTok sound comes up or like some random thing comes up, like I'll film it and post it.
You're growing on TikTok. I think that's kind of a priority, right? I feel like
and maybe I'll talk to you about this offline, but I want to figure out how to like direct TikTok towards the show. Like how to like make content.
Yeah, I was thinking like if I posted my character trailer, it'd be so out of context. But
exactly. Like because TikTok like doesn't give context. So I'm like, what are like creative ways to potentially get people on TikTok to go watch it? But yeah, it's trying to figure out season 2 and like navigate around, like trying to reach out to random contacts, like people like, oh, I know this guy who's like kind of in Hollywood, is kind of thing, and like they always end up leading nowhere. But it's like I'm going to say yes to every single little thing, just because who knows if it's the next person that's like, hey, I can.
My one idea that maybe will never come to fruition, something that we've talked about that I would love to do is like a mini speaking tour with Ross, with like some companies. Maybe an SF would be like easy for us, but like a kind of performance meets advice, genuine keynote style. Kind of some dance,
like kind of like a Bo Burnham without the musical piece.
It would literally be like a Bo Burnham, like we're sort of acting.
Yeah,
I don't know. That would be like my dream.
I have an idea,
and we actually shit our pants before stage every time, and then we go.
Yes.
Well, I called Ross about the same idea. Remember that? It was a few weeks ago.
Which one? Shitting my pants?
Yeah, getting your pants ready. No, because I came out of this event here in Minneapolis, and I was like, dude, I think there's something to like going and doing something like a speaking tour, kind of combining it with maybe parts of the show as well, where you watch a show, there's an event, you speak about it, and just getting it on the road feels like there's something there.
We usually talk about doing a little speaking thing before the show released and like teasing it, but then we are lazy.
And like then you find like it's so hard to organize that shit. Like I was doing seating charts up until the last minute of like the premiere. Like I was so deep in the weeds of every little thing. I would like to do kind of a theater performance meets like crowd interaction meets multimedia. Like we make fun of PowerPoint using PowerPoint. We use like AI like in almost in real time on stage, like produce content and like interact with the people with crowd. Like there's 1,000,000% something there, and I think a lot about it. It's I mean, that is like the show is an undertaking. That is like an undertaking to make like a live action performance that you could tour around with and repeatedly do. I think it could be incredible. That's on my list of things.
I do like the idea of a tour bus with us four and Rohan.
We're all just there.
7-Eleven stops along the way. Forget delivery.
Downsized space we're living in. Yeah, let's go in a bus. Yeah. Let's make it even smaller.
We just get a bunch of sleeping bags. We play night crawlers. It'll be so fun.
It's so weird because it's like as a creator you want to do all these things, but like the life of a creator, it's like completely dependent on you. It's like an upside down triangle. Like if you leave or if you want to break, like all these initiatives you want to do are so dependent on you being there, you physically doing it, your voice, your face. So it's like, how do you want to invest that time? I don't know.
Totally.
It's hard when you're like,
everyone asks like, what's the biggest problem as a creator? I'm like, I can't scale myself in any way, in any meaningful way. Like you want to like do more speaking? Good. You have to go do more speaking. You want to make more content? Good. You have to go make more content. Like how can you scale a business? And like, Nat, I know you run like 2 other businesses. I mean, granted the consulting side, like you have to do, but like, your placement of like EAs and so forth, like that is something that can run itself at some point. Like that's
a goal, but like initially it's like, I'm reaching out to
Right, of
my
course.
network of creators to do it. But yeah, it's like removing ourselves from it is tough.
What's the other one, Nat? Natalie, that you have?
I have a virtual assistant company for influencers and creators. So pairing like people who just help with the admin side of
there's
things.
there's so much admin.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Nat.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
I'm sure you'll be back. She always comes back.
Always comes calling back. Thank you for having me.
Beyond Quota.
Are you looking for ways to execute, manage, and measure your entire sales process? Scratchpad is your answer. The world's largest sales teams, including Autodesk, Algolia, Cisco, GoTo, Twilio, Segment, are already seeing better results. Learn more at scratchpad.com.